Oh, Kitty wants to talk manga. Kitty wants to talk manga. What's your opinions on One Piece? Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite? Okay, anyway, let's talk One Piece. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Mangastorian reading club. Today we're going to be talking about Thriller Bark, which I'm thrilled to bark about. Oh, Kevin, put in like a really bad tish, otherwise I look stupid. All right, cool. Okay, but seriously, today we're going to be continuing the reading club. If you don't know what this is, my name is Benny. I go by Comicstorian and Mangastorian. Basically, in the comic book world, I bring you audio dramas of comics. In the manga world, we can't do that. So instead, I'm catching up on some classic manga that you guys enjoy and telling you my opinions on it. I am reading it, not watching very many of the episodes, so my opinions are based upon reading it. And then I bring you my notes, which are key points that stood out to me that I want to discuss. That does not mean that I skipped over your favorite part or I didn't notice it. It just means that these are the parts that stood out to me. Now, we're going to be talking about Thriller Bark 442 to chapter 459 because I felt like this was a great breaking point to do the storyline in two pieces. Now, going to the notes. First off, Vegeta's getting ultra ego. No, I'm kidding. That's the wrong notes. Let me pull up the right notes. All right, so kicking off with our Thriller Bark discussion. Now, as I said in the previous video, when you create expectations, it kind of spoils the mentality that you should have going into something. Overall, you guys told me up and down that Long Ring Long Island was a terrible arc, and I actually enjoyed it. You also said the same thing about Thriller Bark. I had a lot of people saying Thriller Bark isn't great, you can go ahead and skip over it, it's not worth your time, just truck through it and push through. You're all wrong. This is great. Also, how could I have skipped this? It introduces Brooke, and we're gonna come back to that. But how could I have skipped this? Okay, for those of you who were like, skip Thriller Bark, that means that I would have jumped into whatever the next arc is and been like, why is there a skeleton with an afro? I would have been so lost and confused. What kind of advice is it to skip an arc where you introduce a new crew member? Anyway, let's get into actually talking about Thriller Bark, because I'm not gonna lie, I actually really did enjoy this. Now, let's kick off the exact reason why, and why I liked Long Ring Long Island. Long Ring Long Island came out after Skypiea, and Skypiea was very long and kind of intensive and a lot of stuff happened. Long Ring Long Island, if you're able to read it straight through like I am right now, created a great decompression from the intensity of Skypiea, giving us a little bit of a break to see more of the joking nature of our heroes. We then, of course, went into Water 7 and everything got crazy and awesome and super intense again. But now we need another breather arc, and that's kind of where I feel Thriller Bark is at. Because Thriller Bark's whole thing just seems to be the special Halloween episode of your favorite TV show that is going on way too long for what it's supposed to be. But I mean that in a good way, because it's a nice decompression arc. Kicking it off, we basically have Luffy and the crew trying to figure out what's going on, and they happen upon another ship. That other ship is a ghost ship traveling through this mysterious, foggy area that is preventing the sun from coming down. On that ship, Luffy meets Brooke and decides to invite him to the crew. Immediately, he sees a skeleton that can walk around with an afro, and his answer is, "Do you want to join my crew?" Which I love, because just jumping ahead a little bit, he does that to like every zombie and weird tree thing on Thriller Bark. "You want to join my crew?" To the point of like Sanji and everyone being like, "Stop doing that!" I love the idea that Luffy just wants everyone to be there and be on the crew. Another line that I don't know where else to talk about it, but tying in with that, there's discussions later on about Brooke joining the crew and why not have Brooke on the crew because he's a skeleton. And then I think it was Zoro that's like, well, we already got a reindeer and a robot. And then Frankie's arguing that he's not a robot, he's a cyborg. More great back and forth. Stuff like this is amazing because it doesn't really fit in the serious nature of things like Water 7 or Skypiea or Arlong or that kind of a thing. Because if you're trying to go for a serious tone that is going to make me shed tears over the origins of Robin, you don't want to break it up by having Frankie argue that he's not a robot, but he's a cyborg. And it kind of ties into the exact same thing with Luffy inviting people to be on his crew. But going back to the beginning of our story, Brooke comes over. Brooke decides to accept the invitation to be on the crew, but then after explaining a few situations, such as the fact that he is the way he is because of the devil fruit, which I know you all know, but I'm just going to say it because it's going over this. I really love the idea of how Brooke is. So one thing I've really started to catch on to is Oda can do whatever he wants and just say it's a devil fruit. And I kind of like that idea because it really makes One Piece stand out from all the other media that I'm reading. If I'm reading something with Batman, it's going to be dark, moody, and basically be a detective thing or a superhero beating people up thing. It's going to fall into that genre no matter what. It's going to be in Gotham, it's going to be dark and moody. If I read a Superman thing, it's going to be a story of hope and amazing and whatever. And it's what Superman does. If I'm reading Dragon Ball, it's going to always be, here's the new villain, here's Goku and Vegeta training. That's what it is, okay? Even like more obscure manga that I read, it falls in line. Yakuza Reincarnation, a great book that I am reading, and I have mentioned on this channel, is about an old man who's from the Yakuza who gets put into a young princess's body. And basically what he does is he goes through that universe, and all of the story is going to be his take on the world around and how he's going to beat people up. But I don't get that vibe from One Piece. That's the whole point of that very long way to get there. I don't get that vibe from One Piece, and I think that's because of the devil fruit. I mean, since I started reading it, it was practically a cartoon, and I say cartoon as in like Americanized cartoon, not anime. I mean, like practically a cartoon with a goofy character, and we're going to be over the top and whatever, trying to be a pirate. And we've evolved. This story has gone from that to exploring all the characters, discovering like people being treated like slaves and people and racist people and all kinds of stuff. And then we've gone into a crazy go up into the sky arc. We've gone and done a boat race goofy arc. We've gone into a town where we discover like more piratey kinds of things. Like when he first learned about Goldie Roger and Ace and all those characters in that first town, that felt more like Tortuga to me. One Piece is constantly changing the formula, and I think that's why it's done so well, and we've reached, 1,100 chapters at this point? Because I'm only at chapter 442, and I can tell that. Because what this is doing is we have a piece of devil fruit, which allows Brooke to live forever. Brooke then sank to the bottom of the ocean, all of his skin melted off, now he's just a skeleton with an afro. Then we go into this horror Frankenstein monster storyline. If you took a horror Frankenstein monster storyline and you tried to put it into Dragon Ball, it wouldn't work, and Goku would just blast the island. But if you put that into One Piece, it feels natural. It feels like it works because the world that One Piece is set up is always changing. And the fact that the crew is all over the place, from a skeleton to a cyborg to a reindeer to a swordsmaster to a stretchy man to just Nami. I mean, Nami just has a staff and Usopp just has a slingshot. I mean, they don't stand out. She's a redhead with big boobs. I mean, I don't know what she stands out for. Like, that's, until I read this, that's what I saw her as. Oh, One Piece has the redhead with big boobs. But anyway, that's not here nor there. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I'm really enjoying Thriller Bark. So we introduce Brooke, we end up on the island. The island itself is interesting because it does feel different. We're on a different adventure. We just went through Water 7, which felt like core One Piece. We got to battle the world government, the giants are going to be involved, and we're going to have some big fights. Well, now we're on this weird adventure with zombies. Well, I'm sorry, not zombies. Old men with severe injuries. And we're going... And what I think really makes this stand out as a fun One Piece arc is we're on this island with a bunch of old men with weird injuries, and our heroes are just defeating them. There isn't much of a challenge, which for the first 10 chapters of going through this, seeing Luffy and Zoro and Sanji all just immediately win was fun. And then they were being almost haunted house style, taken away from the crew, and we didn't know what was going on. While this is going on and our heroes are being removed, which makes the whole situation very fun, and we get a lot of good jokes because, I even tweeted this one out, but, the zombie's getting out of the ground and Luffy's just pushing the zombie back in the ground and the zombie's arguing with him. Stop putting me back in the ground! And I just love the way those panels were drawn because Luffy's just staring at the zombie and he's just like, eh. This is what you do to zombies, and I love this because they're not scared, they're not running away, but we still get that because Nami, Chopper, and Usopp all went to the island ahead of the crew, and they're dealing with your more traditional zombie fare. Run away like Scooby-Doo, hide in the body of a zombie and see what's going on. all of this is awesome, and it gives me a different flavor for One Piece. And knowing, and maybe this is a slight spoiler for myself, but knowing it's only going to go to 489 works, because I'm like, great, we get a nice decompression, goofy, haunted house adventure. Now, what I really do like about Thriller Bark, though, is it goes beyond that. We get to a point where what we're discovering is that this new warlord of the Seven Seas can take the shadows off of people and then put the shadows into dead bodies, and these dead bodies are like his crazy awesome warriors. Now, I loved the idea that Sanji got put into a penguin and then was trying to defend Nami still. When that reveal happens later, there's a penguin that's like, I won't hurt the girl and blah, blah, blah. And then later they put it together that must have been Sanji's shadow. I was like, of course, Sanji's shadow is in a penguin with a dog's face and refuses to do anything wrong to Nami. Of course, that is how that's going to go. Luffy's being placed into the giant body of the giant was also hilarious, because he just wakes up wanting food and they bring him all the food from the island basically, and then he tries to stretch his arms out and he also refuses to follow the warlord. Don't know where that's going to go, because it's just been left on him refusing to follow the warlord. I'm assuming the warlord is power and is going to make the giant Luffy fight the small version of Luffy, but that's where we're going with that. But the idea of the shadows going over is great, and I love what's going on with that, and I like the idea that they're going to be fighting their weird zombie doppelganger versions of themselves. But there is a moment in here that I will admit, it hit me. It was out of the blue. I didn't see it coming in any way, shape, or form. And this goes back to how I started this video, where I jokingly said, how could I have skipped this arc? And I didn't want to say it back then. Because Brooke, yeah, you could have easily said, oh, he's just a skeleton with a devil fruit power. That's how he joined the crew. Laboon. The reveal. When Frankie asked Brooke why he does what he does and why he's fighting for this and why he just doesn't give up, because he says he's been doing this for 500 years. And his reveal that he left a crew member behind, a whale that they had as a pet, has been left at the beginning of the Grand Line. And as soon as I was reading that, I'm like, oh, wait, what? And then they cut back and they explain Laboon again. The whale that felt like it was abandoned by its crew. So Luffy invited it onto his crew. And it's not really with his crew, but for the sake of it. And he did the terrible flag on the whale's head. I was like, no! How are you linking Brooke to Laboon? And it's so, like, amazing. Because where did the crew go? They've all been floating forever trying to get back, but he can't because his shadow's missing and the entire crew's missing. And Brooke, his whole purpose is to get back to that whale. And I was like, no, this is amazing, because Laboon in that portion of our story is like it's Reverse Mountain. How do I know all of this? I care so much about One Piece that I know where this is all even taking place. And that's like chapter 110 to like 120. Reverse Mountain is like 300 plus chapters ago. It's that amazing, that linkage to bring it back and not just forget Laboon and forget that he was left behind by a crew, but to introduce us to one of the crew members and that Brooke is going to join Luffy's crew. At this point, even if I didn't know Brooke was going to be on the crew, there's no way Brooke wasn't going to be on the crew. Luffy wants a musician. He's got one. Who tells very bad jokes. But I love it. Now, going through my notes, there's a few things that stood out to me, and I do want to bring them up. I loved the fact that Frankie made a mini Mary. So Going Mary is kind of back, but in mini Mary form. I don't know if that's ever going to show back up, but I really hope it does. If you don't remember what I'm talking about, because some people didn't, he's got like 3 extra boats that can fit 2, 3, and 4 people on them, and the 3-person one is basically a mini Mary. So that was great. I loved seeing the Mary come back for that. When Luffy recruits Brooke, which I loved, Zoro's immediate reaction was telling Sanji, it was Sanji and Nami, that they went with Luffy to stop him from doing stupid stuff like recruiting a skeleton onto the crew. Loved that Zoro is taking that first mate kind of role, that he's finally really, because before this it was kind of like, yeah, he's the first guy that's recruited, I think he's the first mate, but he never felt like it. They all kind of felt like everyone's just on the same page. But ever since Water 7, I'm getting the vibe that it goes Luffy, Zoro, Nami in terms of like authority, I probably might be wrong, but that's how I'm feeling about it right now. And I like that Zoro is starting to really feel that way. Like he's feeling like he's taking charge. The whole sequence where they're decided to go on the island, meet Dr. Hogback, and Nami decided to take a bath before they rush back to the ship. Only for Nami to then get pinned to the wall naked by, it begins with an A. It's like Absalom, the general of the undead or whatever his name is. Doesn't matter. He was invisible then, and I'm assuming he's going to be much more important later. He's decided he wants Nami to be his wife. That's pretty much his whole evil character arc for that, like the chapters he's in. But he pins her to the wall naked, and I love that she calls for help from Chopper and Usopp. They run in. First off, Chopper doesn't care about a naked female body. And the reason that stands out to me, first off, I read it and just, oh, he's a reindeer. But they added in a letter at the end of the chapters later where somebody asked, why does Chopper not care about a naked female body? And Oda responded with, he's a reindeer. But that's why it stands out to me. Like, it didn't stand out originally, but then I read somebody had a question. Why would he care? He's a reindeer. But Usopp cares, and he rushes in to save Nami, and he covers his eyes, and the first thing he says to her is, thank you for this amazing sight, Nami. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? And that was awesome, and I loved that. And then I wrote over here, zombie everything is hilarious. I'm loving that. Luffy gets hit by the ghosts that make him feel disappointed, so he decides he wants to be a clam, and it's commented that he just announced he wants to be the king of the pirates, and now he just wants to be a clam. Where did the clam come from? Why is clam what he wants to be? And then the last note I have here is Gecko Mora. Is it Mora? I guess Gecko Mora? 7 Warlords of the Sea. I wrote that, and then I just wrote time to fight Thriller Bark Ghost Ship Pirate Thing. So that's where we're at, because that's where I left it with. They woke up Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy. All of them realize their shadows are missing. Brooke is on the island dealing with his own evil version of himself, and they're all going to go back, get Brooke, and get off the island. Last comment I want to make is, and I don't know if you guys run into this problem as well. You ever see a word and you just kind of add letters or syllables because that's how in your head for some reason it's supposed to be? I was calling Brooke Brooks, and I really pissed off my friend Kevin. And he's like, no, you got to get it right. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if I just called him Brooks the whole video, like I do with Nico Robin and Robin? And his argument was, no, you're just going to piss people off, because with Robin and Nico Robin, at least that's her name. If you just start getting names wrong, and I'm like, you're right. He had to correct me, though. I was calling him Brooks for like a whole week talking to Kevin, and he's finally like, why are you calling him that? I don't know where my head added an S to his name. I have zero idea where that even came from, but I know I'll never get it wrong now because I've never made Kevin mad like that, and he was really mad at me. I think it might have been immediately after we were talking JoJo's, and I just drew a blank on Kakouin and Polnaraff's names. I couldn't think of them, and I think it all just tied together. I think it was just mad at me for getting like 3 characters basically at that point. Like 2 I forgot, and then 1 I got the name wrong. But whatever, it doesn't matter. I just thought you guys might like a little funny story about me messing up Brooke, his name. I still want to say, because now I want to say messing up Brooke's name because it's possessive. But now when I say Brooks, it's wrong in my head. So I'm like, when I want to mess up Brooke, his name, like I have to, it sounds weirder now. Kevin broke me. And on that note, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll be back next week or the week after with the continuation of Thriller Bark, because our amazing editor Kevin is finally getting a vacation after like 10 years. So yeah, I gotta go walk his dog. It's gonna be fun. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll let you know all of my thoughts on the big fights coming and how excited I am to be a part of this One Piece world. It's just so amazing! Seriously, I think this might be the greatest story I've ever read. I'll see you guys next time.